Hi, everyone. I'm so thankful that we are here together. Welcome to Sloshing Jesus. I'm Linda May, and I have with me today Sandy Storm. I wanted to bring her on because I saw the new movie, The Sound of Freedom, and Sandy is a survivor of human trafficking, and she's an author, she's a wife, she's a speaker. There's so much to her. I'll let her tell her story, but I just wanted to welcome her today so that we can jump on this bandwagon of awareness of
Mhm.
what is happening all around us and what can we do. So welcome, Sandy, to Sloshing Jesus. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me, Linda. It's so great to see you again after so many years and to reconnect.
Yeah.
And it's an honor to address your audience. I know that you have a really special group of people who listen in and watch your podcast. And so I'm just honored to be able to speak into their lives today. Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. I did Sandy's hair. We met in Fort Worth when I lived there, so I did her hair. And she's so beautiful. And as I did her hair, of course, I got to know her and I heard her story and I read her books. And I helped you a couple times at some of your speaking engagements to pass out books. So I'm going to basically just give the floor to you and maybe interject here and there. But I wanted you just on to tell your story and whatever you feel that God is leading you to say.
Well, I think we should start by just thanking Jesus for our friend Sherry that introduced us and connected us, our little
Yeah.
firecracker of a friend. And I don't know if she watches this, but I think I'll send her for sure the link after this comes out, because she was a huge blessing in my life there in Texas as well. So yeah, thanks for the introduction and thanks for the opportunity to share some truth. So I'm at author Sandy Storm on social media, authorsandystorm.com if people want to learn more through the content that I put out into the internet, into the world. I tell the truth about human trafficking. And it's not always easy to hear because it's such a dark subject. And I'm so grateful to be on your show. And what your viewers don't know is that we prayed before you hit the record button. So I know that Jesus is here and Holy Spirit is here, and this is a really safe place to have this conversation. And the people who are going to be listening already have their hearts turned towards the King, and they already want to hear from him how they can be a part of bringing an end to this evil. So if we can start maybe by sharing some of my experiences of being trafficked in the United States of America, and to help people understand how it happens here, right in our own front yards, not even in the backyard, right across the street, right next door, how we can start to look using the eyes that God has given us to see in the spirit what is actually happening as far as human trafficking is concerned, as far as child trafficking is concerned. And then maybe after I share some of my personal experiences and my personal story of being a victim of trafficking for 20 years, I definitely always want to share hope. And I'm a believer now. I've been saved for almost 20 years. I've been married for 20 years. We just celebrated our anniversary last week. And I have an incredible husband. He's a gift, and he's a musician and a worship leader. And I just have an incredible life today. I'm so filled with hope. And I have amazing friends like you, Linda, and others that God has just blessed me with. So I always want to share hope. But the most important thing isn't the dirty details of my sad story or even the great news of my salvation. That is good news. But I think that what people really need is, what do I do? How can I actually do something about this evil? It's so dark, it shatters my heart. I don't even want to think about it. How can I be a part of making this stop? And so I have some tools, some resources, and some guidance for that as well that we'll talk about at the end, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, so to get started, I'll share my books. It tells the whole story. It's a trilogy. So there's Becoming Navi, Hello Navi, beautiful covers, the art
Yes.
inside as well. And then the third in the series is Goodbye Navi. So the books are a trilogy. They're told in allegorical style. So it's kind of like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or Hind's Feet on High Places is what some people have compared the style of writing to. So it's going to help you to read it and digest it, so it doesn't just make you put the book down and not want to turn the next page. Most people say that they open the books and they read them really quickly and they read them straight through because it's a compelling story. So if you want the details, you can get the books at my website or on Amazon or whatever. But in a nutshell, what happened in my life and the way I was trafficked it actually started with my mom and my dad had a really difficult relationship. She dropped out of high school to marry somebody that she thought was going to get her out of poverty. And she didn't know he had mental illness. They both ended up with drug addiction, with a lot of vulnerabilities, and he actually took his own life. So I became an orphan, right? That's what you call a child with no dad. I didn't have that protector. I didn't have that guidance. And my mother, we call women who lose their husbands widows. So here's a widow, an orphan, in a really bad situation involving a lot of poverty and desperation. Well, that was the time that a hero came onto the scene. And a businessman came to my mom when I'm 6 years old and told her that she didn't have to live that way anymore, that he could give her these new opportunities. He could take her to a new home, a new city. He could buy her new clothes. He would take care of me and my little sister. And we didn't have to worry about how are we going to pay for things? How are we going to survive without my dad? And, he did make good on all of those promises. He bought me new toys. He bought us new furniture. We had a brand new home built. And we started going to country clubs. We started going to yacht clubs. I was enrolled in one of the highest ranked schools in the state of Texas, and surrounded by luxury all the time. But in the same time that we're experiencing all of these, what would look from the outside world like blessings, this man was actually a pedophile. And all of his business associates were also pedophiles. And they were doing very disgusting things with children on a daily basis. So this isn't, and I don't want to ever minimize what somebody else would go through as a traumatic experience. But trafficking of a child is different from abuse or rape or molestation, because there's an ongoing grooming process. It's not just grooming the child, but it's grooming everybody in the community to think that the person who's actually the criminal, who's actually the violator, they present themselves as a hero. They present themselves as somebody trustworthy. A lot of times, to kind of zoom out of my story and talk about the general trafficking of children in the United States, it's going to be a coach, a pastor, somebody leading a youth group, a parent, a step parent, a cousin, an aunt or uncle, somebody who has access to build trust with that child. And that's what happened to me. My stepdad and his friends built a lot of trust with me. They showed me that I was special, I was important, I was getting to have all these privileges, getting all these special gifts, and it was in exchange for what they wanted to do to me. So after years of that daily abuse and daily programming, to believe that that's what I was there for, that was the good thing that I could provide in these relationships, I was so broken. As a young adult in high school, a teenager in high school, and a young adult, I had no capacity to build a healthy relationship. Everybody who offered me anything, any attention, any money, I would do anything for that because I had no boundaries. I was completely broken from those years of trafficking and abuse. So I attracted the kinds of people that would violate me. All of my boyfriends in high school were in their 30s. They had been in prison. They drove fast cars. They had money and drugs. And I could go with them. And when we ran out of money or drugs, I was already trained in how to have that kind of transactional relationship with somebody to get the money or to get more drugs. And so I was a gold mine to these men. And they used me to recruit other girls out of my high school. Now think about that. If you have a teenage girl and one of her friends has been abused as a child, and she's involved in that kind of a lifestyle, your daughter is in danger because that girl is a recruiter for the trafficker. And I would sit next to these girls in high school and take them home with me in my boyfriend's car, take them back to his apartment, and he would have friends that would teach them the same things that I had been taught. And this is happening in small towns. The high school I went to, there were 52 kids in my graduating class. So it was a very small town. It's not just happening in cities. It's not just happening on the border. It's happening in country clubs. It's happening in high schools. It's happening in church groups. So that was my experience as a child. And then as I went into adulthood, into young adulthood, with all of this brokenness, with all of this damage, and with all of these horrible experiences, and believing all the lies that Satan was telling me, that this is all I was good for, this is all that men want, this is the only thing that I have to offer, I have to do this to survive, there's no other way that I'm going to pay my bills or get the drugs that I need to shut off my brain that's reminding me of every act of abuse that's ever happened to me. I was so desperate, on drugs, just hopeless and helpless on the streets. And I really thought that I could find safety in a strip club. I thought if I worked in a strip club, at least the men won't touch me. At least there's a bouncer or a manager that's going to protect me. But I learned really quickly. And I think that this is something that the church could really benefit from understanding, that girls who work in strip clubs think that they're getting the answer to their problems. And once you get into that situation, it's almost impossible to get out. I refer to this industry, the sex, people want to say sex work. There's no way you can work by doing sex. But I call it the industry of commercial sexual exploitation, because every single piece of it, every single part of it is exploitative. If there's money being exchanged for access to another person's body, whether that's visual access through pornography, whether that's access through a lap dance at a strip club, whether that's access through a brothel or some kind of online escort service, anytime there's money exchanged for access to somebody else's body who would not be engaging in that sexual relationship otherwise, that's a coercive element. And that person is being violated. That person is being manipulated into providing what the other person, the one with the money, is demanding. And so once I got involved in the strip club industry, I couldn't find my way out of it. I just went darker and deeper into this really, really difficult place to navigate. Everybody else was making all the money. I wasn't able to even survive in those situations. And you can get the books and read all the details. But from there, it went even further into just hopelessness, being on the streets, having nowhere to live, having a desperate addiction that drove me to really dark places. And unless I had encountered Jesus, I would not have survived. The experience that I had when I gave my life to Jesus was less than 48 hours after being in a brothel, and a pimp taking me and selling me from one house to another. And I really thought I was going to die. I didn't think I was going to make it out of his car. I didn't think I was going to make it out of the houses he was taking me to. I really thought they were going to kill me. I really didn't think I was going to live through that experience. And, but here comes hope, right? In my darkest, most desperate time, I cried out to Jesus. A pastor asked me if I was a Christian, and I told him, I don't think so. Maybe I used to be, but if Jesus knew what I had done 2 days ago, he wouldn't want me to be in his club. He wouldn't want me. And the pastor was really gentle, and he said, that's not how this works. And you probably need to get a relationship with Jesus, and I can help you with that. If you want me to pray with you, if you want deliverance, if you want that pathway to him, I can help you. And I told him I wanted it. I told him I wanted to know a different life. And he led me in this really simple prayer. I don't remember if I said like the repeat after me prayer. When I realized what was happening, I'm on the floor with tears and snot and everything else. And I saw Jesus. I saw him in front of me. And he said, I require your life. And in that moment, I mean, think about my life up until that point, the 26 years that I had been alive up until that point. Almost every day I had been raped. Almost every day I had been sold. Almost every day I had been used. Almost every day I had been degraded. Almost every day I had been so desperate that I just wanted the drugs that I was taking to be the last ones that I ever did. I wanted my heart to explode, or I just wanted to die. And Jesus asked me for my life, my broken life. And so in that moment, I knew it was Jesus because he had come and rescued me so many times in dark alleys, in motel rooms, in drug overdoses. He had always been there. I didn't know him yet, but he was familiar to me. And so when he said that, I gave my life to Jesus, and he immediately gave me a brand new life. He immediately gave me access to the kingdom and access to everything in it. He immediately gave me healing, redemption, freedom. And I say that he didn't just give me forgiveness for the sins that I had committed, which were plenty, but he also gave me the answer for every sin that had been committed against me. He gave me healing, redemption, and freedom from every violation, from every sin that had ever been perpetrated against me. And it was an amazing moment. Like, I got a new life, brand new, immediately, kingdom, immediately. And I've been exploring that kingdom. It was March 18th of 2004. And so it's almost been 20 years. And I've been going into the kingdom every day since. Like, I have access to anywhere I want to go. I can walk with him into any room. I have him showing me the kingdom every single day since then. And the next thing he spoke to me, and I think I can trust your audience with this, it's kind of personal, but the next thing he spoke to me was, I placed you in your mother's womb to lead her in the way of salvation. And my mother was my first trafficker. She let these men abuse me so she could have a new car, so she could live in a fancy house. She knew what was happening and she didn't stop it. And she blamed me for it, actually. And I had so much anger and resentment towards her. I was so hateful towards her and so full of poison every time I would think about her. But in that moment, I mean, I'm still snotting, crying on the floor. The pastor's sitting there, and this like church lady is sitting in her walker, like turned around, praying in tongues in the corner of the office. And so I don't even know what's going on, but Jesus spoke to me. I placed you in your mother's womb to lead her in the way of salvation. And at first, Linda, I was not able to agree with him. I was still angry. I didn't want to think about my mother, but he's such a patient, kind, and loving God. And he again said, I placed you in your mother's womb to lead her in the way of salvation. And when my heart agreed with him, when my heart said yes to Jesus in that moment, he filled me with his forgiveness. And that is a powerful, powerful tool. And when I received his forgiveness, I was able to see her the way he sees her. And it broke my heart when I saw his love for her and I saw her brokenness. And I'm not giving her any excuses. Like, she needs to work out her own path. But I forgive her. I can forgive her with Jesus's forgiveness, which has no stipulations. There's no list that I'm keeping. It's his forgiveness. And so once that happened, it was like I received a key, and that key unlocks any door in the kingdom, and I can access any resource that I need. And most of the time, the key turns with forgiveness. And so I've been using that tool for almost 20 years now. And it's led me to a lot of hope. It's given me a lot of freedom. It's brought me a lot of healing. And I'm not saying that we should forget about things that people have done to hurt us, but walking in forgiveness is the power to live the whole free life that Jesus died to provide for for me. And so, so that's what I do today is I walk in forgiveness towards her and towards these others who violated me. But I also take that information that I learned from being trafficked by so many different people in so many different situations. And now I have a full-time career position with a nonprofit called Deliver Fund, and we train law enforcement. And I use my insider information to train law enforcement to track down human traffickers, build evidence-based cases against them, and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law, putting traffickers behind bars where they belong. So I'm really passionate about the work I get to do through the nonprofit, and working with my law enforcement contacts is just incredible. Seeing the victims of trafficking recovered and have an opportunity to rebuild their lives. But I have seen in this work, I've been in the nonprofit anti-trafficking world since 2009, and I've been sharing my story since 2016 as a part of my work. And the thing that I've seen that the gap that needs filled the most is in the church. My friends from church and contacts that I've made over my years of this work will say, I want to do something. Just like you, like I watch this movie and now there's all this awareness and what can we do? And I have good news for the church. So I can't wait to share, some guidance, hopefully, for your audience about what we can do.
Yes, absolutely.
So I know I've done all the talking up until now.
Well, that's good. But, I mean, we needed to hear. I mean, that's why you're here. Is I wanted to hear your story, and I want to hear where do we go from here. And there's maybe multiple viewers, so even the ones that don't know Jesus, this would be a good time for them to even know how to have a relationship with Jesus for one, but for two, what can they do after that?
Mm-hmm.
What can we all do?
Yeah. So, when I gave my life to Jesus, there was no anti-human trafficking ministry. This was 20 years ago. We didn't even talk about human trafficking. Mm-hmm. But that little church that I was, all over the carpet of the pastor's office and his little church lady praying in tongues. It was a country church and outside of town up on a hill. And nobody had to know that I was trafficked. Nobody had to know I was raped. Nobody had to be told I used to work at a strip club or anything like that. They received me and accepted me as a believer, and then they discipled me.
Right.
And this, I think the most important thing for a new believer or even a seasoned believer in the church to hear is that discipleship is the key. Discipleship is what we need. We don't necessarily need a rescue home for a human trafficking victim. We need human trafficking victims to learn a new way of living. So this is what I learned through this little church. They taught me how to pray. They taught me how to do Bible study. They taught me that when I show up, I should be on time and I should have a notebook and I should be ready to take notes because this is important. I'm going to learn things that are new concepts and I'm going to want to take notes. They taught me how to have fellowship, how to be in community with other people, and how to build relationships with people who had different experiences and backgrounds than I did. These were completely outside of my realm of understanding. These are skills that I had never learned in any other situation. So I knew what fork to use because I was trained how to attend a country club, but I wasn't in any authentic relationships. Everybody was trying to take something from me. So it took years for me to learn, and I'm still being discipled. Thank God. I still learning. But the beginning, I mean, going in the basement for a baby shower or a birthday party was amazing. I had never experienced those things before. And I got to eat cupcakes and learn how to be a new person by going to a baby shower. I got to go to women's retreats. Ooh, if you put aside your time and your money and you intend on pursuing the Lord, He will come. He will show up on that weekend. I can't believe how emotional I'm getting when I think about the women's retreats that I attended. The healing that I received by saying, this weekend, is dedicated to the Lord. I'm going to learn how to be a woman of God. Those times were priceless. I can't do that any other way. I can't learn that any other way. And to hear the sound of all the women praying together and finding breakthrough and healing, it was just so amazing, so powerful. Sorry, I'm sloshing.
No, that's what we're here for, to slosh.
So the church has two things that only the church can do. And we were talking about it earlier before you started recording. Only the church can pray. And we take it so lightly, and we say things like, oh, I know I can pray, but I want to really do something, or I don't want to just pray. Well, I have news for the church. Prayer is the most powerful tool that we have, the most powerful weapon that we can wield. And it's the most desperately needed thing for people that are doing the work like I'm doing. We need it more than anything, and we can't get anybody but the church to do it. And if the church doesn't take the calling seriously to do the praying, there's times when I can't be praying because I'm doing work that I can't be praying while I'm doing it. Maybe I'm on the phone with a law enforcement agent at 3:00 in the morning, and he's got a girl on a street corner on the side of the road. And he's like, Sandy, I went through your training. I know that you can help this girl. Can I just hand the phone over? Will you talk to her and give her some hope and let her know she can trust me? I'm trying to help her.
Yes.
Like, I can't pray during that time. That's where the church, the covering, can be praying for the work to be effective. Where I work for a secular organization, we're a nonprofit. We don't have a statement of faith. I'm a believer. My CEO is a believer, but we're a non-religious, non-political organization. And we can pray for ourselves, but to have a team of people praying for us would be so powerful.
Oh, yeah.
So I made a little guide on my website at authorSandyStorm.com/pray. And you can get this little guide that gives you some bullet points to pray. I'm in the middle of writing a book of a prayer guide for specific prayers to pray to end human trafficking. And it's going to have, it already had like the half of it I've written so far. There's scriptures, there's real life stories. I mean, it's survivor informed because I'm a survivor. And hopefully it's a powerful tool that will help people to strategically pray and to teach others to strategically pray. And we're going to be starting some live prayer meetings as well, so that we can bring people together and help them get familiar with some of this maybe new language to pray or new strategies for prayer, and then hopefully disseminate it to their own congregations and inspire their own circles of influence and circles of influencers to pray as well. So prayer is number one for the church. And then number two, I think, is the discipleship, that we also diminish that so much. And we're like, well, it's just a Bible study, or it's just a Wednesday night meeting, or it's just this. Some of the most powerful transformational times in my life were in those Wednesday night Bible studies, when I had the aha moment. And I'm not just learning from that aha moment, I'm learning from the relationships in the pews next to me. Yes. I'm learning how to interact with other people. I'm being called higher and I'm being raised up, and none of them have to call me a survivor or minimize me. They saw me as their sister in Christ, and they treated me like that. And I found so much healing and so much freedom in those churches. And so I want to encourage your listeners that if they don't have a relationship with Jesus, what are you waiting for? My gosh, like, you have access to the King of the entire universe, the creator of everything, and he loves you and wants you. So just give your life to him. He'll give you a brand new one, and it's going to be way better, I promise. And then for the church, I just want to encourage you to learn how to pray about human trafficking. Learn how to minister to trafficking victims and disciple them, and give them an opportunity for a new life. And then if that's not enough, if you do those two things and you're still like, oh, I need to do more, well, you can always donate. And if you're going to donate to an organization that's fighting human trafficking, you can look up their 990. So that's their like tax form, and you can see where their money goes if you're donating to them. And then do some research online. Do more than just Google them. Find out what the people who have worked there say about their organization, what their partners say, and vet the organizations. Our churches, sometimes we just get these feelings and we want to do something and we act without discernment.
Right.
Right. And so discernment is a gift that you can grow in.
Right.
And it's walking, just the closer you walk with him, the more you'll hear his whispers.
Right.
My friend Christina says, she tells her son, you should be so close to Jesus that he can smell the shampoo on your hair.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's
That's
Christina
awesome.
Baker. Get her book, Hope in 60 Seconds. She's
Okay.
amazing. You would love her.
Well, we're going to
Um,
put up your information too on this in the comments or the descriptions. We will put up some of the information that you're giving, where about your books, your website, Deliver Fund. That way, that people can contact you if they want to find out more, to read about your story and to find out what else they can do. And you go all over the place speaking. You're an author. So any of my friends who, want to know more, want to have Sandy come speak, I know that you would be open to that.
yeah, I share secular messages and faith-based messages.
Right.
So yeah, I don't always tell the Jesus
Uh,
parts of my story if it's not the right audience, but I
uh,
know that he's a good place to do that. And he's my favorite. So I'm so glad I had the opportunity, and hope. I just want to share hope. Like, what happens in the movies is probably not what's happening in reality. And what's happening in reality is probably worse than what's happening in the movies. And we do need to do something about it. There are children being sold for sex on the streets of the cities that we live in, and that's not okay. We need to do something about that. The first thing we can do is get educated. And that's what this is. The second thing we can do is pray. The third thing we can do is start discipling. We're not only discipling the daughters that have been broken, we're helping to disciple people so they don't become part of this broken system, so they don't get involved in these broken cycles, whether they're buyers or sellers or victims. We want to disciple our communities so we can prevent human trafficking from happening. And then that third piece, to give. I mean, that's what we're called to be: generous. We're called to be givers. So that's my goal, is to bring hope, to educate and empower and bring hope.
Well, you are sure doing that. I've been witness to your speaking engagements and read your books. Phenomenal. In fact, I don't know where your books are because I gave them away. I gave them to friends and I don't remember who they went to. So anyway, I hope they just passed them on. They
Amazing.
were
Thank
so
you.
very well written and very engaging. And
Thank
they did leave that there's gotta be something that we can do to stop this.
you.
So I just am so thankful that you came today and that you're sharing your story and that God is using you so mightily to bring awareness, and not only to bring awareness, but to bring justice and
Mm.
to do something for real about it. It's one thing to like talk about it, and really prayer, God opens so many doors. He does. God will. I know that when we pray, God is rescuing them as we're praying. He's doing it. He's dispatching his angels to go, or whatever, people to do it, just like just saying a kind word. The biggest thing I saw was love. Love is what saved you. Someone
Mm.
saw you as a human being, didn't matter anything about you. They loved you into a relationship with Jesus. So
Yep.
we just pray that today, that as Sandy and I are sitting here, God, I just pray right now, Father, that you would open doors, Lord,
Thank you.
for us to love each one that we
Mm.
can encounter every single day into a relationship with Jesus. God, we ask you for that. I remember as a hairstylist asking, Lord, what can I do? And you said, I bring you 5 people every day, at least,
Yeah.
to your salon. I want you to love them into a deep relationship with me. So we just pray that for each of our viewers, that they would know you, that they would love you, and that they would reach out and love someone else into a relationship. That's how we rescue. We ask you in the name of Jesus. God, I
Linda,
thank you
you
for
did
coming.
that
Thank
for
you so
me.
much.
You did that for me. You loved me into a deeper relationship with Jesus. So I'm so
You're an easy one
grateful
to
for
love.
you.
You are an easy one to love. I tell you, I fell in love with you the moment I met you. You and your blue hair. I was like, blue hair. I have to do blue hair. And look, my whatever it is out here shows me as having blue hair. It's not blue.
I don't think you can see it in my lighting, but I've worn blue in my hair for justice. So it's my reminder every day for justice. But thank you so much, Linda. I just adore you. Thank you for
Well, I
this
hope
time.
to get to visit in person sometime soon. I know this is going to end, so I'm going to end it before it ends on me. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And again, I'll put everything in the comments, and we will get this out to you so you can do something yourself. And the prayer guides, I'm excited for those. That is such a great resource. We'll really hope that people will take advantage of that. So everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much for coming and listening, and please share and like this, and we can all, this is the way we can all make a difference.